Thank you. So, when I started to play the saxophone, I was 16 years old, and I already was listening to a lot of music and to a lot of jazz. And when I had the first saxophone in my hands, it was like somehow I already had a quite clear idea how a saxophone is supposed to sound. Because I already listened to a lot of records by Charlie Parker, Sonny Rollins, John Coltrane, Ornette Coleman, Willie Smith, Dexter Gordon, a lot of players. So a lot of information were already in my ear. And when I got the saxophone in my hands the first time, it was like I didn't know nothing about the instrument. I was self-taught musician. You know, I learned by myself. I took a couple of maybe 4 or 5 private lessons in my city, in Torino. There were no jazz school at the time. And then I continued by myself. So I was, you know, listening to the record and trying to repeat exactly what I was listening to. And my specific interest has always been about the sound. You know, the sound of this instrument has always been my focus, and still is. It's the most important thing for me. Everything that I play comes from the sound and passes through the sound. And I cannot play any musical idea if I am not concentrated on sound. So how how I practice this. As I said at the very beginning, I didn't practice for real because I just trying to repeat what I was listening to, you know. Then little by little I started to understand about some kind of exercises or kind of practicing that that was helpful for me to improve my sound and to learn more and more about sound. You know? So I started playing alto saxophone, but after 2 years and a half, I switched to tenor and soprano after I listened to John Coltrane. You know, I discovered my favorite things, the record of John Coltrane, and completely blew my mind, and, you know, and I switched to tenor. And actually, on tenor I found my voice, because I think it's really important for everybody of us to choose the instrument that really sings for you. It doesn't mean that the instrument must repeat your vocal register. It's not that. It's just the way where the range where you sing, where you hear that is the right singing for you. You know, for someone can be tenor, for another baritone, alto, soprano. I don't think sopranino is for anybody. I mean, kind of register that bass saxophone could be. Bass saxophone is a very singing instrument to me. I mean, I would not be surprised that somebody can feel like it's the bass saxophone instrument that sings better for him. But tenor it was for me. And so I really start on, when I switched to tenor, on concentrate on sounds. And I immediately understood a lot of things about mouthpieces, reeds and instruments, because tenor saxophone is maybe the most, the instrument where the space and the area for the research of sound is the most wide and open, maybe. This is because, for me, this is my opinion, the tenor saxophone is an instrument where you can really put a lot of air inside. And the more you put air, the more you feel like the instruments want air. That's why the most part of the tenor players, like myself, likes to play very open mouthpieces. Generally, is not a rule. No, it's not. In jazz, is never anything for everybody. Never. But usually tenor players like to play very big mouthpieces. I'm a little bit out of scale because I play very, very big mouthpiece. But in general, is very useful on tenor saxophone, playing a big mouthpiece with a quite strong reed. When I after a few years that I was playing tenor, since the very beginning, it was very natural for me to blow into big tip openings mouthpieces. It was very natural. I mean, the very beginning, I remember that I was playing, the first mouthpiece that I had on a tenor was maybe something like a 6-star or a 7, which is could be a normal tip opening for a beginner, let's say, tenor player. And for me, it was really, I felt that it was, I can't put any air inside this instrument. And I looked for another one more open, and became immediately natural for me to play instantly with a Autolink 8-star or 9-star. And then I went up and up. And when I went back to alto after a few years, I said, okay, now I need a very open mouthpiece, because I play a very open mouthpiece on tenor, so I need an open mouthpiece on alto too. And I remember I bought maybe an Autolink like 10, I guess, for alto. And it doesn't work, not at all. because alto has a different way to take the air for me. It's like there is a kind of a natural resistance inside the instrument. The more you put air in the alto, the more you feel like the air goes back to you, like a bounce, you know. And so the more the mouthpiece is open, the more you get the air back. So you need to really to play with articulation, to use this return of the air, and so playing with your tone, with articulation. That's why the alto players they articulate a lot, basically. You know, I think it's for this reason. It became natural to play not only on the sound itself, on the flow of the air, but to play on the effect that you can put on the air, against the air. You know? But not on tenor. I mean, on tenor, you can really blow one note and make a sound. If you don't want to play louder, if I want to play very soft, just a question to use the speed of the air, you know. But you can really work a lot with the air. Actually, this is the main focus of my idea of playing saxophone. For me, it's not about the saxophone. It's about a column of air. And when I play saxophone, I don't think to play a metal instrument with some holes and some keys, but I think to play a tube made by air. And I think to put my fingers over my air. That's what I think when I'm playing, for real. So the column of air, in my opinion, is the real instrument, is where we can really work to improve our sound and to change, try to change our sound, try to give to our sound more colors, more dynamics, more controls, basically. So, what's the main difference, in your opinion, between playing loud or playing soft? What's the main difference? Tell me.
Airflow.
Yes.
You
when you play loud, what do you do?
you had a flow and mouthpiece,
Yes.
and get a strong,
Yes, and when you play soft,
louder sound.
and when you play soft, what do you do?
Maybe you make a по-русски скажите, ну, сильнее плоть сжимает.
Strong.
You put less air, you mean? Less
No,
air?
you press your lips and
Press harder or soft the rib.
To me, yes, I understood.
yes, I think you maybe make your soft voice like this.
To me, is a question of speed of the air. That's it. It's not the amount of the air, but it's the speed of the air, which is very different. So when I play something like something very speed and very articulated, you listen to the tongue on the reed. Okay? Or if I play something like And I play something like this. There is no absolutely difference in what I think concerning the air. The thing that I think too, in both cases, is this. You know, playing one long tone, flow of air, straight, from here to Torino. Like this. You know, and over this, I try to do whatever I need. So I need to play softer, I just reduce the speed of the air. I need to play louder, I push the air faster. And then I use my tongue to articulate, you know, and the fingers, of course, to articulate. So whatever I play, what I always think is one long note. When you listen, for instance, to Dexter Gordon, when he plays, he keeps the level of the weight of the air always the same. Either he plays like a in the low register, in the middle register, in the high register. So this is a typical Dexter Gordon kind of sustain, you know. It's almost like there is a natural reverb into the sound. When you listen to Dexter Gordon, you get this feeling that there is at the end of the note like a natural reverb, which is not, of course, but it's just the way it makes resonate the notes along with the sustain of the air. You know? That's very interesting. So one very good exercise could be trying to play a note very loud, you know, like a middle G. Middle G is a very easy note on the tenor and on the alto too, because it is in the middle of the tube, so there are no particular turbulences or resistances. I mean, it's very free-blowing, but resonant at the same time. So we can play a middle G loud, very loud, as I did before, you know? Even without be concentrated on the control of the embouchure, of the pitch, of the beauty of the sound. Just blow hard, you know? This way. And then when, so the air goes very, very fast, you know? Very fast. So, almost immediately, I mean after maybe 2 seconds, something like that, let's try to stop the note and putting our tongue against the reed. So it's like slamming a door, you know. You close the door. So the air can't pass anymore inside. But your body, your diaphragm, it's like a, you know, photograph in this moment. You keep this kind of position, and then you attack again the note as softer as possible. More or less this way. Okay, this is a very, very good exercise because it makes, it helps us to understand that there is no, as I said before, there is no difference between playing loud and playing soft. The amount of air that we need to use is exactly the same. The only difference is the speed of the air. So in the first case, we just, we don't slow down the air. So it's like when we blow on the fire, So this is a very good exercise. I mean, it's been very helpful to me to understand how to play soft. And actually it's very good to practice soft, or let's say middle volume. Sometimes it's good to practice very loud too, because when you need to really to understand the limit of the instrument, for instance, when you got a new instrument, or instruments or a mouthpiece that you need to explore, it's very good to play loud, because you test the limit, you go until the limit. But then in your usual practicing routine, it's very good to practice middle volume or soft, really. Etc. Okay, that's very good.
What to do if somebody has a headache after
After you play?
after playing?
Take a medicine.
Yeah, you can take a pill, or well, I think that
What is the reason for it?
there could be different kinds. Have you tried already to change your strap, for instance, or no? Have you tried different kind of straps?
Maybe it depends on people.
I mean, it could be either kind of a muscular problem, so that came from the strap. Actually, there are some people that are very sensitive in this part, so that could be. So maybe to use a harness, different kind of strap. Nowadays there are few that are very good. There is one called
Hyperventilation. Hyperventilation.
yeah. This is another possibility. Harness called sax. What's the name of the harness? The one with the two hooks here and the steel bar. Sax holder. Sax holder.
This, like this one?
No.
No?
This for children.
It's another with two hooks. You put here on the shoulder. So the weight of the instruments is on the shoulder, and not exactly this one. This to practice is very, very good to practice. I use it for practice. I can't use it in the concerts because I need more freedom and I don't like. I'm too used to the regular strap. But to practice, that's very, very good. So this could be one reason, or as you said, a not good use of the air. So maybe you're using the air. You're not concentrating the low part of your body, but more here. That's very important always to think that we are blowing warm air inside the horn, and there must be like pushed on the floor, You must have the feeling that you're pushing your air against the floor. And when you practice and you see yourself into a mirror, nothing needs to move besides the diaphragm. If you look at me when I'm playing and when I'm breath, I think that you don't see anything else moving besides the diaphragm. So this is very, very important, a correct use of the air. This is the most, as I said at the beginning, the most important element for me in playing sax.
Thank you.
So Another element which is very important, of course, is the articulation. I mean, if there is a good control of the air, if we start to really control the column of the air, then we can do a lot of other things. But otherwise, no. If we don't have a good control of the air, we cannot articulate. This kind of articulation, you can have it only if the control of the air, if the column of the air is really solid and strong. Because otherwise it would be like walk on a floor that is not, you know, doesn't keep your weight. You make a step, boom, you go down. It's the same thing. You can put your tongue against something which is not strong and solid. You know what I mean? So another good test is to play a long tone and try to articulate only that note. You know, this way is if you can really control your articulation, it means that you are using the air in a very correct way and your air column is strong and solid. Timing, play on the time. That is impossible if the air column is not solid. I cannot play so play on the time, you know, and articulate on timing. The quality of the sound, the color of your sound. You can do nothing if you don't have a solid control of the air column. You know, you can maybe play one note only in one way if you don't have the full control of the air. You know, but if you have the control, you can play the low C like this, like this, like this. You know, so it all depends from the control of the air. Altissimo registers, same. The pitch, the control of the pitch is very, very important, and it's very related with the control of the air, because it's nothing to do with the embouchure actually. This part for me is just like a point of contact between my body and the instrument. Of course, it's a very delicate point because it's where the air goes from my body into the instrument, but it's just a point of contact. I can't really control that much through the embouchure. You know, so for me, it's very important to keep a very relaxed embouchure. Very. Let's say that my point of pitch in my thought is always a little bit lower. Try to explain better. when I, if you give me a machine to tune, you know, the note, I would be probably higher. I need to pitch myself higher, and then to keep the embouchure relaxed, you know, and give the flexibility to the sound, to the note, and put the pitch where I want to put it, not where the machine said me or where the you know, the mouthpiece on the cork said. No, I need to put it where I want it. You know? So, and to put the pitch in a certain point means to obtain a kind of color on the sound. You see this kind of flexibility. You know, to use this kind of flexibility, I need to be as much relaxed as possible here. The right phase that you must take when you blow into a saxophone is an idiot phase, which is perfect because he said you keep your
More relaxed.
yes, because you keep your face normal, you know, the mouth slightly open, then you put your hand here, and you do it here, and there, the face of an idiot, you know. This is a perfect position to blow into the saxophone. Look at me when I put the saxophone in my mouth. My lower part is much behind the teeth, or you know, that's very important because that allows to the air to flow much more freely into the instrument. And by the way, it's the only position that allows to us to play subtones. If we want to play subtones, if you want to play subtone, you must keep the embouchure this way. There is no other possibility. Okay. One last thing that I wanted to say before to ask your feedback, I mean questions, is I lost my. I forget. But just a few questions about. So the critical points, of course. Now that I've talked about all these, the most important topic, of course, on the saxophone is right here. Okay, mouthpiece and reed. Mouthpiece even more, because mouthpiece it's really, he has so many different possibilities in terms of tip opening, chamber, facing, and every element makes a huge difference. You know? So we really need to find the right mouthpiece for us. There is no the universal mouthpiece for everybody. You know? We need to find the right one for us. Nowadays there are a lot of mouthpieces on the market. When I started, it was almost You know, there were only Otterling and Berg Larsen stop for tenor saxophone. Basically, in Italy, you know, in the late 70s, early 80s. Then Dukov came and other brands, slowly. But nowadays there are a lot of different kind of mouthpiece. And talking about reeds, reeds the same. We need to find the right reed that goes with the mouthpiece that we like. But at the same time, reed is most delicate in the terms that, of course, mouthpiece, once that we find the right one for us, we're okay. But reed, every reed is different. So we need to find the, let's say, the reed that, universally speaking, is the most suitable for us, you know. So I play D'Addario reed since now. Basically, I always played this reed because I always played Rico, that then, you know, became eventually D'Addario. So it's the same kind of cut, the same kind of reed, and it's always been the perfect reed for me. I mean, it's the only reed that where I can find this quality of sound that I like. And I must say that in the last 4 or 5 years, since D'Addario bought the brand, the company, and developed the select jazz reed, they really improved a lot the consistency of reed. I mean, when you buy a box of D'Addario, you're pretty sure that you can play almost every reed, which is, you know, is not bad because in the past I throw away. I have closet full of reeds, I don't know, it's the reed that has the most richness in terms of harmonics for me, in every dynamics, and I can play soft and loud, and the reed lasts. It's not a reed that is good for one night, for one gig, and then the day after it's over, you know. They usually last a long time. So I think it's a very, very good reed. And D'Addario also developed a mouthpiece recently for tenor and for alto. And I was very surprised because, you know, they use new technologies as well as in reeds, you know, to develop the new select jazz reed. They use new machines, you know, with a numeric control, very, very sophisticated machines, and actually it helps a lot to keep the consistency of the products, you know. As well in the mouthpieces, they give me to try, you know, to test the first alto mouthpieces that they did. It's a kind of Mayer inspiration mouthpiece, and I was very surprised because they gave me maybe 3 mouthpieces, and the 3 of them they all played almost the same, you know, very similar. And then they developed the tenor mouthpiece, which is very good as well. It's and it's very interesting because it's not inspired as the most part of the mouthpiece is a replica to the Otterling, but is mostly comes from the Mayer concept. So it's slightly different. And that's why I've been to D'Addario atelier in New York, and I tried with some of my students, because I go to Juilliard school, and we tried many different mouthpieces, and they were all very, you know, consistent and equal. So, and you know, they are not expensive, not at all. So I think this is a very balanced, especially for a beginner, for somebody that maybe practiced saxophone already since a few years and wants to start to find a mouthpiece to play more specifically jazz, and that could be a good option actually, you know. So please, any kind of question is more than welcome.
What is your favorite modern saxophonist?
My favorite modern saxophone player? There are so many. It's difficult to say one for me, almost impossible. I go very often in New York for playing and for mostly to take energy, you know, because the New York scene is always the very top, you know, and all the top players in the world are there. So you go out, you know, in the clubs, and you think that you already knows all the guys. You say okay, and then you saw guys playing never saw before, just came from, I don't know, from Texas or from Russia or from, but wow, killing, you know. So there are 3 or 4 tenor players, talking about tenor, in New York that for me are really the best, like Grant Stewart, Jerry Weldon, Harry Allen, Bill McHenry, so many.
When you practice, do you use some piece of classic music or just jazz?
I never studied classical music. You know, I started with jazz. As I told at the beginning, I went in touch with jazz thanks to a friend of me, older than me. I was 11 years old, and he was like maybe 15 or 16 years old. And he said to me, okay, tonight we go to listen to a jazz concert. I was listening to a lot of rock and pop music at that time, so I didn't know. I never listened before to a jazz music, not even on the radio or record, nothing. What it is? No, it's good. We go concert, and it was a shock because it was Art Blakey Jazz Messengers, 1976 or 1977.
You're lucky man.
Wow. You know, I didn't know nothing about jazz, about improvisation, about nothing. But I said to myself, if one day I will become a musician, this is the music that I want to play. You know, just the energy and the sound of the instruments. Every instrument, saxophone in particular, was wow. On this. And I never had the chance to study classical. I actually regret a little bit because I would like to have a classical training, but I don't.
And at what age have you started to play saxophone?
I got my first saxophone when I was 16 years old.
And what was your motivation for the training? Because for this one it's very difficult to motivate.
Oh, for me it was the opposite problem. I mean, I wanted so much to study music and to have an instrument and to practice the instrument. There were no musicians in my family. No musical tradition at all. Nobody never played an instrument. When I was 5, 6 years old, I started to ask my parents, I want to study music, I want to study music. They say, no, now, you know, do the regular school and then we'll see. No, I want to study music, I want to study music. And then, you know, when I was 15 years old, I said to my parents, I was going to a liceo, classical, gymnasium maybe, in Russia, I don't know. And I said, okay, now I stopped to go to the school because the only thing that I want to do is to study music. If you don't let me study music, I stopped to go to school. And I did it. So it was like a, you know, a big fight or revolution in the family, you can imagine, 15 years old. So at the end, I won because they gave me this second-hand Orsi alto saxophone, horrible. It was, you know, it was a terrible saxophone, but for me it was the most beautiful thing in the world. And so it was a, you know, I conquered this. That was the opposite problem for me.
And again, have you started to go to some special school for saxophone, or you have some teachers at home, or what?
No, there was at that time there was nothing in Italy, no jazz school. It was 1980. Nothing, no jazz in the conservatory, no jazz schools. So I took a couple of private lessons, and then I did by myself.
All the way,
Mhm.
go through.
Mhm.
And what about the notes, the grammar?
Mhm. That's
Maybe
little by little, you know.
you just by yourself?
Mhm.
Emmanuel, excuse me.
Great.
Did you really take some lessons from Michael Brecker?
I did a workshop with him, yes, but that was much later, in the 1986, yes. I did a 1-week workshop. He went to Italy, and it was an incredible experience. At the time, you know, he was probably my hero. He was like my idol, you know. And he came to Italy to do this 1-week workshop, masterclass, and it was fantastic. Yes.
Only 1 week.
Yes, 5 days with him. Wow, incredible.
And what was important for Michael Brecker in your education? The biggest point.
Maybe I can tell you with a very very beautiful compliment that one of his best friends did to me. Because I teach every year in a workshop in Sardinia, and every year there is an international guest. And 2 years ago, this year was Giovanni, and 2 years ago was Gil Goldstein. Gil Goldstein is a great arranger, piano player, accordion player, but it's mostly an arranger. He's one of the most requested arranger in jazz, along with Vince Mendoza, maybe, in the last 30 years. He studied with Gil Evans, you know, and he arranged records for everybody, from Michael Brecker to Pat Metheny to, I can even know, but you know, hundreds of people, the greatest. And Gil was a very, very close friend of Michael, and he worked a lot with him. And Michael was one of his greatest love, you know. And so the first day of the workshop, there was a concert where we teachers were playing. So Gil came to the concert, and I played one of my tunes. And at the end, Gil comes to me and say to me, you know, I'm very glad to meet you and to discover your sound and your music, because you know, since Mike Brecker is not anymore with us, I always ask to myself, who gonna play the melody now? Who gonna play the melody now? And he told me, in your way to play the melody, I felt a lot of Michael's spirit. So this is something that maybe it remains in my, you know, in my playing, in my more than other things that, you know, most part of the players take from Mike Brecker a lot of, you know, chops and harmonic concepts or approaches, you know. But maybe in my case was the way how to play melodies.
What can you tell about the building of your solos? How do you build your solos?
I always start from the sound first. If I don't have a good read, and you know, then it's very difficult for me. But yeah, I start from the sound and basically from the melody. I have a very, very melodic approach. I really try to develop the melody. And when I play, I always have the melody in my mind, the melody of the tune. Then, of course, there are different approaches that you can use. For instance, when you approach an harmonic progression that you are not very familiar with, a good thing is like maybe to play very slowly but on tempo, but very slowly, some pattern over the chord, you know. Like I always suggest to play like if you got one chord in the bar, like let's say C7, for instance, just play 1, 2, 3, 5, okay? You know, of if you got 2 bars, the same chord, you can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you get 2 chords in 1 bar, then you play 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and you skip the 4th. You know, like on blues, let's say 1, 2, I always try to start with something like that, with a chord progression that I don't know, you know, but very slowly but on tempo. That's very important because it gives you the possibility to really hear the chord progression, even if it's very slowly, like if you play at the piano, you know, you play the chords on the piano. Is one of the ways, you know. But then of course you have to, when it's about to build a solo, it's much more, you know, it's dynamics, it's the density of what you play. You can start with few notes and then getting more and more dense, you know, and go higher in dynamics, or just to, you know, start with a kind of a variation of the melody, you know, like Sonny Rollins used to do a lot of times, you know. So different approaches, but first for me is melody. Other questions, or just something that you would like to know, to understand, or to...
What can you tell about metal and ebonite mouthpieces? What's the main difference?
Actually, you know, the material of the mouthpiece for me is important, but not that much. It's not the material of the mouthpiece that makes me choose the mouthpiece. You know, it's something else. It's the chamber and the facing for me is very important. But in my case, for instance, you know, this is a mouthpiece in wood, handmade by François Louis, and this is the first mouthpiece that François did for me back in 1996. Then he made many others for me in solid silver, second one in wood, then with the composite material called Spectruoso, you know, this one for me. And François is a genius. I don't know if you know him. This one, yes, is a wooden mouthpiece, and you know, it's just perfect for me. Every element is perfect for me. And there is the quality of sound of the wood, which is very different from metal, very different from hard rubber, from ebony, because it vibrates a lot. And after 22 years that I played this mouthpiece, wood is like has a memory, you know. It's like there is a memory into the wood, and he absorbed all my way to, you know, to make him vibrate, and it's really like there is a kind of a natural amplification of the vibration. I don't know how to explain, but I really got the feeling, even compared to the second mouthpiece in wood that he did for me only 4 or 5 years ago, which it starts right now to open, you know, the vibration. It's very, very fun.
One more musician joke.
What?
I think it's one more musician joke about memory.
Yes. Yes. But you know, material is not that. For instance, François made also after 3 or 4 years that he did this one, it makes me a solid silver one, which is more or less the mouthpiece that you can see in the pictures or video of Bob Berg. You know, Bob Berg played this mouthpiece. And you know, it's of course the grain of the sound, the quality is a bit different, but not that much. I must say that myself, because I switch pretty often between the wood, the solid silver, the spectroso, and I did different records. Sometimes I do records with, you know, different mouthpieces, and when I listen back, I can't say which one is myself. No. I can say, seriously. So, you know, it's very, of course, the sound is in your ear, in your mind. Then, in the case of the mouthpiece of Francois, for me, are so perfect for me that even, you know, the material is less important. I can obtain the same quality of sound, the same colors, you know, even with different materials. So.
You were speaking about alto sax. How can you save the idiot position of your lips when you're trying to play altissimo register?
This, of course, is a good question because, you know, especially on alto, and even more on soprano, the position of your lower part here is a bit less extreme than on tenor. You know, because you don't need to move so much, actually. On tenor, you need to move a lot. If you want to play subtones, you really want to do it. Alto, you have to do it, but not that much. And of course, when you go up in a high register, in altissimo register, your embouchure must be a little bit more tight, you know. But the thing is always that, one thing that helps me in this is to think that I don't have to push with my teeth. You know, I always try to have the feeling that even if I don't put my teeth here, I can control, you know. And even in the altissimo register, which is more difficult, of course. But you know, if you keep this in mind, it could help to, you know, to keep a more relaxed embouchure. Actually, it's a very good exercise sometimes to practice without pushing the teeth. Makes us understand a lot about the muscles here, you know, how they are important, because the pressure is here, it's not here.
Height is? Height is?
Here.
This part.
Lips.
Round. Down and here. Not here. Here it's just, you know, it must be just like a, almost like a chamber of air, you know, when I feel like there is almost a small chamber of air, but the real, the tension of the muscles is here. You know? So if you try to practice for a while without pushing the teeth, that's very useful. There's not so many jazz players that use this kind of embouchure, but there are some. Brentford, which is a very dear friend of mine since a long time. He used to play tenor and soprano with double lip embouchure, so no teeth. In jazz, it's not usual. I mean, for me, it would be almost impossible to use this technique with my mouthpiece. It's too big. Too big. So if you play like, you know, 7 star, 8 star maybe. But then it becomes too difficult for your muscles, you know.
And can you tell me, how can I vibrate?
How you can braid?
Vibrate.
Vibrate.
Vibrate. Good question. Vibrate. That's So vibrato for me is not a tool of expression, but is mostly a consequence of the sound. You remember when I talked before about the flexibility of the sound, the pitch, you know, that when I play one note, you know, this kind of flexibility, this is the beginning of the vibrato. If I slow down the vibrato, you can hear it very clearly. You know?
You put it down.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's just, you know, relax a little bit your muscles and feel that the pitch goes slightly down, you know. Actually, there is a very interesting exercise that it's a very good exercise, especially for beginners, but it's very good for vibrato too. You can start only with the neck, you know, and do like this. And then. And then. And then. And then. And then. You know, so and then if you put the neck on the instrument, you try to do the same. You know. You understand what I'm doing? I'm playing like a major scale, one step below, you know, but with the right finger, you know. Of course, in the low ranges it's almost impossible. But you know, and this kind of exercise is very useful to let us understand the flexibility and also, you know, the vibratos. Then, of course, to control the vibrato is very important to put in relation with the tempo. So if I play let me think, a nice tempo. You know, this is the tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And when I stop on one note and I use the vibrato, it's always related with the tempo. You know, it could be like triplets. Di, 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 wi, 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 o, di, 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 wi, wi. You know? You know, so it's very important to start to understand how to obtain vibrato, and then use a metronome. I start with like a, you know, every beat, 1, 2, 3. And then. And then. try to control as much as possible your movement here. Other questions? Saxophones, mouthpiece, reeds, ligatures. It's a universe.
Have you ever tried some different saxophone? Maybe alto, soprano?
Oh yes, yes, I play soprano too. Not that much anymore. In the last years I really focused on tenor. But I always played soprano saxophone. And alto too, in the last 2-3 years, I practice a lot with alto. Sometimes I like to play. But tenor is really my first voice, let's say. It will be released next springtime. And it's a particular record which I dedicated completely to Lester Young, and which is one of my greatest love, you know. And Lester Young, the more I'm getting older, and the more I feel closer to Lester Young for some reason. I really think he's the father of everything in this music, you know, in jazz music, in the saxophone, tenor saxophone, but especially, you know, in jazz music. So I did this record with a great Italian singer, but you know, actually she lives in New York since 25 years, Roberta Gambarini, incredible singer, and other very great musicians from Italy, and Greg Hutchinson on drums. And yes, and you know, I play the tunes related with Lester Young, tunes that Lester Young used to play, tunes that have been dedicated to him by other musicians like Charles Mingus, Goodbye Purple Hat, or Wayne Shorter wrote Lester Left Arm when Lester Young died. And so it's, you know, I think it's going to be a nice record, I hope. And yes, it will be released in May. It will be released by Warner Music. So it will be distributed in Washington.
Так, надо сказать сразу по поводу дисков, что, к сожалению, у нас их нет с собой, потому что у нас гастроли уже 3 недели. Мы все распродали. Тем не менее, мы попросили, нам выслали из Италии новую партию дисков. Естественно, у нас есть сначала почта Италии, а уже потом почта России. И, в общем, мы с нетерпением это ждем. Если у вас будет желание приобрести диски, в том числе диски, которые появятся в мае на лейбле Universal, обязательно будет дистрибьюция в России. Лучше всего, проще всего будет найти меня, Виктора Дзиевского, где-то в социальных сетях, либо через сайт нашего агентства. И мы, сейчас могу почтой, либо лично передать. В общем, мы сможем это устроить. Вот я думаю, что есть еще вопросы, маэстро? Есть?
Please.
Can you tell something about your daily practice?
Daily practice? Daily practice. I used to have a lot, and I still try, but it's very difficult for me now, you know, because I'm traveling so much, and you know, and I'm always very busy, you know, with teach. When I don't travel, I teach, so it's pretty difficult. But I always try to keep some moment for me, you know, and of course during the year I have a house in the mountains nearby my city, Torino, in the Alps, and I go there in summertime, and I stay there, and you know, I practice, you know, sometimes, you know, all day long. When I have a free day, all day long, you know, from 9 in the morning to 8 in the evening. No, I just stop just to eat, you know, and then I take energy for, you know, for all the other moments where it's impossible for me to practice. And what I practice, I basically practice 2 things: the sound and the repertoire.
Maybe some exercises? Some exercises, maybe?
Exercises.
Examples.
Yes, everything I just showed you today. Exactly the same thing. Long tone with dynamics, vibrato. Try to to find the quality of sound in every note, in each note, the resonance of the notes. There are a lot of things that it takes a lot of time to talk about. With my students, we spend years talking about only those kind of things. So everything is concentrated in 1 hour. But and then I work a lot in melodic patterns that I work all over the instrument in order to keep the articulation. Simple pattern. Something like. This kind of thing, but trying to do it sometimes even slow, but keeping the articulation, focusing on articulation, trying to keep the same articulation all over the 12 keys, which is very difficult on saxophone. Because in saxophone you know very well that even just a half step of distance, it's another word. Everything changed in terms of resistance, in terms of quality of sound. So it's very difficult to use the same and to obtain the same exact articulation in one key and then one key lower or higher. It's very difficult. C sharp, and D. Two different universes. Nothing to see. And it's almost impossible to articulate in the same way that note, the different notes, two different notes. So I'm trying to work a lot on this, and this, even because playing a very big mouthpiece helps me to be, articulation with a very, very big mouthpiece like this. It's require more. It's more struggling. You have to. It's more demanding. It's more demanding. So I work a lot on this and the repertoire. And the repertoire, of course, includes, repertoire means to learn new tunes, standards, learn new, and refreshing what I already knew. Then the repertoire became huge after a while. Then you have to remember the tunes that you learned 2 years before, and maybe you never played, so you have to refresh it, because. But that's the main thing. And when you practice, when you study a repertoire, a new song, the song always puts in front of a different problem, a new problem, harmonic problem, or the same kind of harmonic situation, but in another position, So it's for me, it's a perfect practice.
Are you still transcribing someone?
I did a lot when I was young, yes. I still do, phrases. Of course, I listen to a lot of music. And of course, transcription is one of the key to understand, to learn the language. It's all about the language, guys. It's like to learn a new language, like to learn, German or French, or, it's a new language. You have to learn and to, the spelling.
How you remember chord slang in standards?
Hold slang?
Chords.
Chord progression, you mean? First, through the melody. I try always to put the melody in relation with the chords, Like, for example, when I play a melody that I learn, for instance, let's say, I Remember You, the standard I played at the beginning. I try to, to stop on certain notes of the melody and explore what's, downstairs, harmonically speaking. And I try to put in relations the certain notes of the melody with the chords. That helps me a lot. And then, of course, it's just a question of either just memory, just really memorize, by heart. But more than this, to remember the sound of the chord. I mean, the distance between the chords, you know, the intervals between one chord and another one. That's the thing that, you know, you should learn by ear. And then, of course, play the tune. Play. Because if you just study the tune, and then, okay, I know, I remember. And then the day after, you don't play the tune. And then for 3 or 4 days, you don't play the tune. After 4 or 5 days, you go back to, okay, play it. Or what? Wait a minute. You forget immediately.
Okay,
So play.
That's where you need to learn now.
Yes.
When you forget.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, maybe I will play something more for you. You know the name of this tune?
Out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. One of the great songs.
Do you create your own music? Do you compose your
Yes,
music?
of course.
And, can you play something from?
Yes.
Юта?
Yes, maybe.